I'm Benedikt Brydern, and I'm originally from Germany. I came to the United States about 22 years ago, and I studied at USC. But I finished my studies in Germany, so I went to the conservatory, and I'm a violinist. So that was my first instrument, and I also picked up composition already as a teenager. And I currently live in sunny California in Santa Monica. Yeah, cannot complain. And I do also a lot of commercial music. So I like the concert music, and I've written a bunch of different pieces, chamber music, orchestra things. But I also do commercial work. I've done feature films, video games. So I'm on my foot is in all kind of different places, and my mind too. Working in the commercial field, you have to do those kind of things, right? You get a movie, you have a month, you've got to compose it, you got to orchestrate it, you got to record it, you got to mix it, you got to finalize the files and send them out. So that was not the scary part at all. I'm very much at home with those kind of things. So this is for me standard procedure, and I just know my buttons and I have all the software. Like many of my colleagues nowadays, we all work actually digitally. I think there are only a few people left maybe with pen and pencil, right? But the young generation, and we are all here with the keyboards and all that wonderful stuff we can use to make our scores look really, really good and hopefully sound good. I actually like assignments. And if somebody calls me up, even commissions, and they say, listen, we have a wind ensemble, but it has three French horns in it, I might actually get excited about that, right? So, no, I love that. I think it was actually, it was a nice surprise having a clarinet because I haven't written for that instrument for a while in a chamber setting. So I like it. For me, it was an inspiring and great thing to have actually a guide and say, this is what you get, and here are the minutes, don't go too long, don't add anything on, so for me it was great. I have a pretty strict work ethic, so I try to sit down in the morning and start writing something, and then I will see where it takes me, right? So as some people think we composers just maybe walk down at the beach and then the great melody comes, yes, that can happen, but usually it's hard work. So you start actually with maybe a progression, or you have a little idea, and then you develop and you use all your tools and you think, and then the inspiration kicks in, right? But I take breaks. Now, as Johannes Brahms said to a student, to get better on the piano, you got to take long walks through the woods, right? You want to get the nature, you want to get out of there. And also it, you know, helps you personally. I think it's really dangerous if you just lock yourself up in the little room and just write. It's good to have some distractions and get out there. And of course, here at the beach, super easy, and it's always nice to do it. The longer you work on a piece, the more things can change. And often things get actually worse, right? Because you overthink. You might have a great idea and it's a great concept, but then you start doing those fine tunings and micromanagement. And often I discover I go back to the original. I might just spend another 2 weeks working on something, but then I say, you know what? No, no, no. Let's just look at number one, square one, and then I go back. Occasionally it actually gets better, right? You might find some little things. So I don't really know. I personally like to close things off, but years later, that's the problem. You might say, oh, what did I do back then, right? And then you might want to revisit. Like some famous composers like Stravinsky would go back and say, you know what, my childhood piece, I'm going to reorchestrate because no, I learned more. I can do this better, right? But normally, I like things with a closure and not too long. I think for me, it's not that good if I work on a piece for like 2 years. You have to move on. You can't just linger on one measure, on 1 second for 4 days, because you have 2 weeks. So I think it again, it propels you. It keeps you moving, right? And that actually creates some spontaneous music as well, because again, you cannot overthink too much. You gotta do it. And I think that's why those pieces might be different than if you spend 5 months on the piece. But yeah, as even the theme for the competition said, please try to figure that out, the COVID related, what, the fear, the anger maybe about the system, or, hope, all that. I try to reflect on that and see, how is that musically? What can I do to bring this across? And I hope I achieved. I'm not quite sure. It's very personal. Composing is personal. And when the listener will listen to my pieces, maybe those movements will evoke those emotions about what I just mentioned. the isolation, that free time, or being locked in, and so for everybody was different. You want to do and get better and share your music with people. And the greatest for me is when strangers come up after a concert or email me and say, I heard that piece, and it's just something happened when I heard it, and it's unsolicited, and it's just yeah, as I said, a stranger. It's not your family who supports you anyway. So those are the greatest moments. So that's why I like playing, because that happens at the concerts too. People come up to you and start crying, or they say that moved me, or this whatever it did, right? So you did your job, not just towards the composer and the composition, but also towards the audience.